All right, let's talk about a game that I'm willing to bet you've played a ton of times. Guess who? You know the one, with all the little faces you flip down. But what if I told you that hidden inside that simple kids game is a super powerful framework for understanding, well, pretty much all human communication? Yeah, that's right. Today, we're giving Guess Who the serious academic treatment it absolutely deserves. We're going to see how this game is actually a perfect little model for how we strategically hunt for information in our everyday lives. Ah, this question, it's a classic for a reason, right? We've all asked it, hoping to get that one big clue. This simple question, though, is the key that unlocks a whole hidden strategy behind every single conversation we have. So, to really get the game, first we've got to understand the players. Because Guess Who is not a solo mission. Nope, it's a strategic duel. It's a dialogue where every single word you say is a calculated move. Just think about that for a second. Every conversation is its own kind of game. We're not just, sharing random facts. It's an active, strategic back and forth where everyone has a goal. And there's a formal way to study this. It's called game theory. Game theory is basically the playbook here. It lets us see the conversation in Guess Who, not as just random guessing, but as a series of really smart, calculated moves. Your question totally changes my next one, and we're both trying to outsmart each other to get the win. And this whole interaction creates this really cool dynamic. The questioner's goal is all about efficiency. Win fast, use as few turns as possible. The answerer? They just have to tell the truth. This setup creates this cooperative, but also competitive dance. It's an information duel. This is the big idea, right here. We need to stop thinking about conversation as just sending data packets back and forth. It's a game, a strategic one, where each player is making calculated moves to hit their objective. Okay, so if conversation is a game, then your questions, those are your power moves. And, just like in a game of chess, some moves are way, way better than others. So put yourself in the game for a second. You're just starting out. You've got 24 faces staring back at you. What's the better question to ask? What gives you a better shot at winning? Do you go super specific, or do you start broad? I mean, look at this. The difference is huge, isn't it? Asking, is it Maria? That's a total shot in the dark. If you're right, you win, sure. But if you're wrong, you've only eliminated one person. But a question about a big feature, like facial hair, bam, you could wipe out half the board in one go. Now that is strategic power. And there's actually a name for this concept: information value. The best players, whether they know it or not, are masters of this. They have an instinct for asking questions that just slice the possibilities right in half, completely crushing uncertainty with every single turn. So in any conversation where you're trying to get information, your real goal is to ask questions with the highest utility, to get the biggest informational bang for your buck. That right there is the secret sauce to a winning strategy. And it turns out asking a really good question isn't just a gut feeling, it's a science. There's a whole field of study that's all about the logic of how we ask questions to figure things out. It's called arotetic logic. I know, it sounds super complex, but it's really just a fancy way of mapping out the most efficient route from a big, messy problem to a single, clear answer. Basically, arotetic logic gives us the rulebook for what our brains are already doing when we play Guess Who. It shows how we take the main question, who's your character, and just chop it up into a series of simple yes or no questions that logically corner the right answer. This is pretty much the algorithm for discovery. You start with your main question, then you fire off a broad query to split the possibilities. You take that answer to shrink the playing field, and then you just do it again and again. It's a logical, step-by-step search for the truth. And get this isn't just a loose analogy. Researchers have literally built formal academic models of Guess Who, at least 2 of them, using this exact logic. This kid's game is so well designed, it's used to model how actual scientific inquiry works. How cool is that? Okay, so this is all pretty fascinating, but let's get to the big question. Why does any of this matter? Well, because this logic, this strategic game of questions and answers, it happens way beyond the Guess Who game board. It's something we are all doing every single day. Guess Who is way more than just a game. Think of it as a perfect little simulation for any situation where you need information to solve a problem, anytime you need to cut through the noise and reduce uncertainty. Seriously, just think about it. A doctor asking you questions to figure out what's wrong? They're playing Guess Who. A lawyer questioning a witness? Same game. Even a computer trying to understand what you're asking it is using these very same principles. The same strategic logic is absolutely everywhere. So, from now on, the next time you ask a question, any question at all, remember this. It's not just a simple request for data. It's a strategic move in the great big game of communication. It's a tool you're using to take the huge, messy uncertainty of the world and shrink it down to a single, manageable answer. Which kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. If every conversation is really a game, with its own goals and strategies, maybe it's worth asking yourself, in your next conversation, what's your objective? What are your best moves? What game are you actually playing?